Okay, well, we're going to go into our featured authors now. And first of all, we're going to welcome John Saunders, who's come up from Ireland to talk about his sexual abuse survivor's handbook. And that is very topical as well, because as you know, we've got a national inquiry going on into sexual abuse throughout the country, focusing in major part, I suppose, on the Catholic Church. But I think it has a very wide-ranging mandate to talk about issues like this. And John's story, I think, is typical of what a lot of people are feeling, but have not been able to write about up to this particular point. So please welcome John Saunders.
Hi, everyone. I don't usually read from books. Usually what happens is people ask me questions and I respond to the questions that people ask me. So it's sort of a bit difficult to start to consider what I wanted to actually read to you, because there's so many aspects of child abuse that affect us and our communities and our families and us as individuals. So apart from having normal nerves of coming out and speaking like this, I also have those other nerves of where do I begin? What do I say to these people to have a message? In a few moments, I would love to hear from you.
Have a question?
Yeah, I might actually try that soon. Thank you for responding that way. I appreciate that. I did a couple of weeks ago at the Byron Writers Festival. I did about an hour of speaking, but it was all with questions, and then the audience started asking questions, and it was really powerful. So what I wanted to say is, firstly, thanks so much for coming, because a topic like this has very strong taboos around it, and those taboos are so ingrained in our society, in our civil system, that they're unconscious. We don't necessarily go, oh great, I want to go to this speech and have this guy or this person speak about something that touches us so deeply. Especially coming from a person who has been abused. Do I really want to go and see that? In fact, I was talking to my sister today, who's in her 60s, and I realised that she's not going to come. I've got 7 brothers and sisters. And I realised also, I don't want her to come, because I know it'll actually affect her for the next couple of weeks, and she'll feel things like, why wasn't I there for John? Why wasn't my family there for me? And then it'll bring up all her issues as well, and she'll have to deal with that. So I'm really happy that she actually didn't arrive. So the book is an account of my experience of the legal battle, the battle with the church, the therapeutic challenges, the battle with my family, battle with myself, probably mostly. But then after I got over that, I started battling also with this institution and the taboos that surround this issue. So what I did is can you give me 5 minutes, give me a bell at like 10 so I know I've got to wrap it up today? Because I don't know whether I'm actually going to read much from the book. I'll leave that to you guys if you're interested. So I broke down abuse into 6 different subject matters. One is the effect on the child. 2 is the effect on the adult who's been abused as a child. 3 is the effect on intimate relationships. 4 is the effect that I had on our civil system and on the institution when I confronted them about my abuse. How they responded back to me. And then the other one was, in relationship to that, is with their response, how did that make me feel as someone who's been abused? did that affect my life? And the final one is how it affected me, how it affected my humanity and the spirit of humanity, because in my case, like thousands of victims, and we're talking about thousands, and worldwide we're talking about tens of thousands of people that have been abused by people who stand for or are an ambassador for the Creator, for God. They're there to provide us with a compass, a moral compass, a spiritual compass. So the impact on that is so dramatic. So they're the 6 categories that I broke it up into. Let me see what else I wanted to say. Probably some of you are going to say, he's got his glasses around his neck. Why doesn't he actually put the frigging thing? So I might do that. So yeah, the 3 things that I wanted to read were about, because I can't go through all those 6 categories. I just don't have enough time today. But what I wanted to choose is one on intimacy, a little bit on intimacy. A little bit of a light thing for the book, so you don't think it's one of those books that you have to go away with and, oh my God, I've got to recover from this now. There's some funny stuff in there as well. And finally, more so, I wanted to focus on, because we have the Royal Commission right now, and these guys who are involved have canon law. Now, canon law is very different than military law, and it's very different than our civil law. And canon law is basically above our law. So this is why we're not seeing any of these people who are perpetrators or have protected perpetrators going to jail. If it was you, you'd be straight in there if you were found out to be abused, because it's a criminal offence. On top of that as well, if you were found out to be an abuser, then part of our civil system is there to actually help you overcome those institutional damages that have occurred to you and help you come back into society. So, unfortunately, with the covering up over decades and decades of these people who have been institutionalised and turned into pedophiles and child abusers, they don't have the resources. They're not provided with the resources when they should have been provided with the resources so they could actually heal and reconcile. I know that sounds like maybe a bit of a big thing for a victim to say, but I can see the damage, as you can see, it upsets me. It upsets me deeply that we have victims on both sides. I've probably only got about another 5 minutes, I imagine. 7 minutes? Okay. So what I'll say is, I'll read one piece out, but what I'll say is that this book is multifaceted. It helps males and females, it helps. It's not to fix it. We don't get to fix it. What we do get is we get a greater understanding of ourselves and the wounds that we have inside ourselves and how we can turn those little wounds into something gold that provides us to be there for others who have been abused, others that haven't been abused but are helping other people who have been abused, because my relationship, unfortunately, after 12 years broke up because she was a sweetheart, she had enough. But there wasn't any really support for her. When I initially rang up to find for instance, a group to go to, because I'd been abused, I got on the phone and I said, oh look, I'm ringing up because I'd like to join the group. And a girl got on the phone and she said, I was like, what? Yeah. She said, we're a group of women. We couldn't have you in our group because you would just trigger so much. And I said, I know, I understand that, but I'm dealing with the same issues that you guys are dealing with. If we could take away the sex that I am, it could be a great thing. But she said, I'm sorry. There's nothing there. And that was sort of disappointing. So I had to really find my own road, and I didn't find a group to go to, because there aren't groups out there. In fact, the Writers' Festival a couple of weeks ago, probably out of 100 people that were there were, 85 that were women. There was only 5 guys that were there, 5 males that were there. So it's the breaking down the taboos is the most important thing to do. So some of these guys will start coming out of the woodwork and make connections with other men and see the similarities of the abuse, of how it's unfolded, and start feeling that things are actually, the scale's tipping to the other side, where abuse victims are seeing what treasure they've kept protected inside their hearts and souls all this time with their pain and isolation. And then we'll see it. We'll see the wonder of that happening, because a lot of these people are incredibly precious and gifted. And I would encourage you, as much as you can, to educate yourself by grabbing books like this and seeing what you're not seeing, even if you haven't been abused. It'll show you how to help others and empower you with information that you can, when a taboo comes and hits you unconsciously, you can actually get out there and say, I actually read a stat on bullying in the workplace. And the stat on bullying says that, and this is a current stat by the way, that bullying, which comes from, we kids get trained to bully, and then we grow up and we can become bullies as adults. Guess how much bullying costs this country in commerce each year? Just have a guess, one of you, just have a guess.
Millions.
Millions? How many million? Just have a crack. Someone just say something. 50? I'll tell you how much it is. Between $6 and $36 billion. That's the Australian government's figure right now. Because it costs the workplace, it costs us legal fees, it costs the therapy, it costs just it costs us. So hopefully I've got a minute left to go. 3 minutes, great. Okay, you're not getting bored yet, are you? I hope not. Excellent. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to read much, but what I do want to say is that in 2000, I was the first person to, this is what I was told by the Catholic Church representative, that was going to take them to court for duty of care case in Australia. And they said to me, look, if you do that, they're going to get very frightened, very angry, and very defensive. And this was from the guy who was George Pell's secretary. He's getting grilled right now. His name is Brian Lucas. And so he said, do you really want to go through it again? And I said, yeah, I do. And you're going to get my letter in a week. Thank you very much. So I sent a letter out to them saying the abuse that occurred to me in secondary school, which was a huge amount of bullying, beatings, isolation, psychological, emotional crap that no one should ever have to put up with. I was taken into stairwells and told that I was hopeless, useless, and that my parents would think I was a failure, and then I'm going to take you down and get you suspended and expelled because you're just a useless human being. So that's what I wrote to these guys. I wrote them a letter saying, this is what's happened. And in your own admission, you've said that this abuse, the damage of this abuse far outweighs the sexual abuse that happened in primary school. Now, the reason why they did this is because child sexual abuse is a criminal offence, and they needed to actually minimise the criminal offence to minimise the compensation payout and find a way that they could actually put it over here, which wasn't a criminal offence. Emotional, psychological, bullying, all that sort of stuff, which the government now actually says is torture in some of their definitions. Wasn't a criminal offence at the time, so that's what the report said to me. Now, by the way, that report it got lost for 13 years. I finally got it in February of this year. So finally, I'll just read this a little bit. Now, this is the statement, and it's only five lines. This is a statement from Brian Lucas. Brian Lucas oversaw my case for George Pell. And the reason why he oversaw it is because it was the first duty of care case, and if I cracked it as a duty of care case, that just would have opened up the floodgates. We knew all these people were getting sexually abused, but we had all this other abuse that was happening that many people have experienced. So, 123, my glasses. Someone remind me of that. So this is a letter that Brian Lucas, extract of a letter that Brian Lucas sent me in response to my letter in regard to addressing the Towards Healing protocols, to actually seek a pastoral response from them and to seek meetings with them so we could actually address these issues. So this is what Brian Lucas wrote to me. He said, I'm replying on behalf of His Eminence, George Pell. As to your request to commence discussions about compensation, I should indicate that this is not a matter that comes within the scope of Towards Healing, or is covered by any insurance. And on the information provided, it is not clear that there is any basis of legal liability. I would welcome a copy of any legal advice you have received that would support a claim of compensation. And he signed, sent that back to me. Those letters shouldn't be sent out to people who have been abused. And finally, I can just say, and I know I've got over time, is that midway with my duty of care claim between 2000 and 2005 that Brian Lucas was overseeing for George Pell, he, in 2003, he joined the board of directors of Catholic Church Insurances, which is owned by the Catholic Church. So, I hope you like the book. I hope it can help a lot of people because it's got my daughter writes in it about how my response to her has affected her. My partner writes in the book. It gives my therapeutic healing road. There's a lot in it. I really hope you can pass it on if you don't like it yourself. And thank you so much. Appreciate it, Dave.